Hey there, welcome, and this is Energetic Self-Defense. You're with Grace Hart, and today we're talking about the energy of labels. Now, with this podcast, I'm going to start to talk about the energy of this and the energy of that, the energy of judgment, the energy of conclusion, the energy of gratitude. We've spoken about how energy is the first language, and what if you actually made that your go-to? So whether you're meeting somebody or signing a contract to a home, whatever it is, if you're willing to perceive the energies, not only will that protect you, it will lead you to a life beyond what you can imagine cognitively. So the energy of labels. I had a client once, and she had, she has two autistic children, and one of them is so violent that the members of the family have to wear bike helmets because he hits them. And I asked her some questions, and basically what came out was, yes, he's violent. That's what he is. He has autism and he's violent. And so I asked her a question. I said, does he hit everybody all the time? And she said, no, he only hits us in the home. And I said, right, okay. And they were a split family. And I said, in relation to your ex-partner, does he hit his dad and the siblings at that household? The children at that household? And she said, no. I said, okay. So what's going on that he's hitting you and your daughter and not anyone else? And in that moment, she got that she had labeled him as violent. She had come to that conclusion based on his diagnosis of autism. But when she was asked questions that highlighted, wow, he's actually not doing it anywhere else except the home, all she could conclude was, oh, that's because he feels really safe here. And he, it takes so much effort for him to be good. And I'm so proud of him. And, the home is a safe place where he can actually let go of his frustrations. So if you're willing to look at the energies there is the label of autism and what that means and what it doesn't. There's the conclusions based on that label that is giving him permission, so to speak, to be violent toward his mother and his sister. Now, she had a choice in that moment to keep that conclusion and keep fighting for the rightness of her point of view that no one else gets the son like she does and he needs to vent, and I'd much rather, if I stop, he's going to start attacking, strangers or teachers, and I don't want that to happen. Now, when I first spoke to her, she wanted to hold on to her rightness of her point of view and her conclusions. But after really sitting with what we spoke about during our session, when you open a door, even if it's just a little wedge, you can't unsee what's been opened. And the thought of her daughter getting hurt, it wasn't really about her, it was her daughter getting hurt. She contacted me and said, okay, let's see what happens. And if he starts attacking everyone else outside, then I'll pull back and do what I, have been doing. And we did some amazing things. Asked her a lot of questions. She made a lot of choices. She changed a lot of energy. And basically the outcome was this child learnt a new way of communication that she didn't know existed because she was not in possibilities. She was in conclusions and labels, right? And now there's no issue at all. He's not only is he not hitting anybody, he's thriving and he's communicating. They're in tears at how how much he's able to communicate to them. And why I wanted to talk to you about this, and it was a toss-up actually between this podcast and Beyond Domestic Violence, was I have chronic PTSD. That's a label. And you might have labels, health issues. You know, you have cancer or you have whatever it is, right? Or you might label yourself as bad financially, or not good at relationships, or whatever your story is, right? You'll have a label, trust me. If you're label free, you can stop listening right now, and conclusion free. So with the PTSD, or any labels actually, what I say is it's great from a diagnostic point of view. You know, if you go to the doctor because you're feeling a bit wonky and they go, you have this, that's great. What you do with that diagnosis is your choice. And always go to the lightness. It might be medical intervention. It might be a bit of both. It might be getting some energy work. It might be going on a retreat. Trust your awareness. However, what we tend to do is when we get diagnosed, for example, with something, we can make it significant. We can make it real, true, and non-changing. And we can also buy the points of views by the majority on what that is or isn't. And I was told a story by a dear friend of mine, and she says, you know, there was this lady, and every morning, she was a bit of a nosy lady, and every morning she would see the neighbour across the road put out her washing, and it was always dirty. And she was saying to a friend, you know, I don't know why she even bothers put these clothes out, because what's the point? They're dirty when they're going on the line, the clothes line. There must be something wrong with her washing machine. And surely, you know, how embarrassing. Like they leave the home in these clothes that are, you know, dirty, and it's like, surely, come on, fix your washing machine already, right? And of course, the husband comes in and says to her, oh, I've got to do a few chores today, you know, and she says, all right, well, I'll go out and have coffee with her friend. And anyway, she comes back and she says, oh my goodness, they finally have fixed their washing machine. It's so good that they're now wearing nice clean clothes, and they're washing their clothes and they're putting them out, and they're clean when they put them out to dry. And the husband says, no, I just cleaned the windows. And so she was looking out of their dirty windows, and when she looked out, she saw the dust, and she concluded that, oh, it must be their broken washing machine. So labels are a little bit like, or can be, if you get significant about them, or you let them control you versus having choice with them. A bit like the dirty screens, you know, the dirty windows. And I like to see labels as T-shirts. So, for example, when you have, I'll talk about it from a complex post-traumatic stress. Initially, I just felt like that was me. It couldn't change, and don't go dating anybody. Don't go working really dynamically with anybody, because you're messed up and you're wrong, and the best you can do is, you know, A, B, and C. And then I realized, oh, it's not me. It's just a T-shirt I'm wearing. It's a label I'm wearing. And what would happen if I took the T-shirt off? And when I thought about that, it was during a session with my counselor. I was like, oh no, that does not feel safe. And we played with it. She gave the analogy of a hat, and she, you know, like the PSD hat, and you can sort of tilt it and you can move it forward, and you can, you know, change the color of it. And so I took that and I played with it as a T-shirt, and I was like, yeah, what would happen if I dyed the T-shirt? And what happens if I did a little knot in the front and made it sexy, you know, or whatever. And the more I looked at it as a separate thing to me, the less I had as a heaviness of it. And when you work with energies, you can, when it's separate to you, and I don't mean separate as in you've separated it, like I don't have PTSD, it's just a T-shirt. I don't mean that. I mean that you can recognize first you thought it was you, then you got, oh, it's not me, it's just a choice. I'm just choosing to put that T-shirt on. Now, it's not as simple as pulling it off if it's something that's, like a cancer or something that's a little bit more, needs a little bit more time to work with. And, mind you, that could be not true too. I've heard of spontaneous remissions with cancer. So, correction. I'm just saying that from your point of view, you'll get it when you get it. You'll hear it when you hear it. And you'll be it when you be it. And if you're willing to just look at, what if this wasn't you? What if this was just a t-shirt that you're wearing? And what would it feel like? What would it be like if, you asked the question, could you just take it off? Because that could be true for you. Could be super light, like, oh my gosh, you mean I don't need to have this label anymore? Yay! And boom, it's gone. Or it might be that you can change the color of it, or change the density of it, or change the energy of it, and keep changing it and keep changing it. And eventually, whatever time frame that is for you, a moment, a week, a year, whatever, it's okay. You're not wrong. It can change. And, Oprah says it beautifully. What if your wounds can turn to wisdom? And so then it doesn't have to be a t-shirt. It can just be this wisdom, this super house or a superpower ability that you have. Because PTSD actually has it's an ability to be in past, present, future at the same time. That's one of the superpower abilities of PTSD. But it gets bastardized when there's been trauma. And every label you have and every conclusion you have, the same is true. There is a possibility there. There is a power there. There is a choice there that's possible that you can't see if you stay in the energies of labels and conclusions. So they're two very different things, labels and conclusions, but they tend to be buddies. That when you get labeled, you go into conclusion. Or when you label someone else as nice, maybe they are nice, but if it becomes a label, like they're nice, well, they might be stealing from you and you don't even know it, because they might be nice, but they might also have issues with money or a sickness, and because you've labeled them and concluded that they're nice all the time, you can be blindsided. Or you're only willing to see where they are nice and where they maybe aren't. And then, of course, the other thing's true, that maybe they're even nicer than you can possibly imagine. But if you've concluded them as, or labeled them as they are nice, and that's in your definition of what nice is, maybe they could step into something far greater for you, beyond nice. However, because you've labeled them and concluded, there's not really a possibility for you to receive something greater. And that's the same with you. If you've labeled yourself as, say, having PTSD, and it's not an acknowledgement, it's a label that you're sticking yourself with, and then you're concluding, well, if I've got that, then I've got it forever and I can't change it, or, whatever it is. What if that's not true? What if your windows have a bit of dust on them? And maybe that dust is affecting your ability to receive what's true about other people, their greatness, their kindness, or their capacities. Because all those little dust fragments on the window, they're like little walls, little bricks. And over time, if you don't clean that window of your labeling and your conclusions, you'll end up seeing something that's not actually even true. And so if you're willing to clean those windows, clean those glasses, so you can actually see what is, it takes courage, because sometimes you might see that your relationship isn't what you're choosing, or the job isn't what you're choosing. However, if you're willing to, it will, if you are in a job that you don't like or a relationship you don't like, if you follow that lightness, if you follow a space of awareness awareness, being present with that space, you will make choices that will always choose greater for you. However, if you make choices based on thinking and attention to the dust particles on your window or your glasses, so you're running away to something or running towards something, or and also just that energy of rightness of your point of view, are you willing to let go of that? There's something so beautiful about coming into, whether it's a discussion or anything, with the willingness to change. And that could be changing your point of view, or changing as in choosing something even greater than you had available before you started that conversation. Because that's something that's so beautiful about the universe. It's ever changing and ever growing and ever flowing. And it's this level of kindness and constant flow of communication. However, a lot of us miss it because we're looking for the words rather than listening to the energy. So this is just to invite you to look at, have you been labeling you or other people? And what if you took that label off? I've got a friend who was told she has 6 to 8 weeks to live. This happened a long time ago. She lasted. She's well into her 50s. This was at least 2 or 3 decades ago. And when she told me, I was like, okay, cool. Well, whatever you want from me. If you want me to laugh, scream, whatever, just, let me know. And her and I got closer and closer because she said to me, everyone looks at me like that woman who's dying in 6 to 8 weeks. She says, I'm so over it. And I remember when I was in a wheelchair for around about 3 years on and off due to my car accident, the amount of people that had labelled me and concluded me as mute, like they would just speak to they wouldn't even look at me. They would speak to the person pushing my chair. I'm like, hello, I can understand you. My brain's not, in a wheelchair. It's like, I can hear you. And so, there's so many conclusions and so many labels that we do. And it's the same thing with your kids. If you're labeling them as the good kid, the great kid, the happy kid, the cute kid, and they may be that, all of that might be true, but just acknowledge it rather than label it. Because if you've got, for example, a great kid and you don't allow him to make a mistake because he's been labelled as the great kid, if he makes a mistake, is he going to tell you? Of course he's not. Whereas if you can acknowledge that he's just this amazing kid, it's a different energy. He's allowed to make mistakes. It doesn't take away his, trophy, being his label of the best kid in the family or whatever it is. It can take the stress off. So, as I said, just pay attention this week to what labels are you putting on you, your family, your kids, people, co-workers, whatever. And what conclusions have you come up with that have locked you into a set reality that is unchangeable? Because when you conclude, that's it. There's no room for anything else. Whereas if you can acknowledge, oh wow, the relationship's over. I need to leave this relationship. Great, acknowledge it. And what else is possible with that? And you'll get the energy of what's required to leave in a way that is the greatest for all. Or it might be as soon as you let go of that, the relationship changes. I don't even know whether it was on this podcast, but I've given the this story of a client that came to me, and she had this really amazing husband, and the only thing he did that drove her crazy was after a shower, he would just drop the towels on the ground. And I said to her, well, is that truly, because sometimes, it's never about that. I said, is there nothing else going on? And energetically, it was pretty clean. And so she realized she had labeled him as lazy, labeled him as not caring for her. Because if he cared for her, how quick does it take to, pick up a towel and put it on, right? And had concluded a whole lot of things. And she left that session in gratitude. She ripped off all the labels, all the way she was fighting for the rightness of her point of view. She let it all go. She changed the energy. And she chose gratitude, the energy of gratitude. Not the energy of judgment, which is what she was choosing for him. And she just felt amazing. And she was so excited. She said to me, I can't wait for his shower tonight. Because she wanted to be okay, because she really was okay with it. And she had made the choice that she was just going to pick it up and take 2 seconds. And he does so much for her that takes way more than 2 seconds. And anyway, at the end of the week, she rang me and she just said, you're not going to believe this. I've been waiting all these days for him to drop the towels so I can actually be this new energy of gratitude and put it on the and put it back on the towel rack. And he hasn't dropped them since. And that has maintained itself from what I've heard. I'm not in contact with her anymore, but for quite some time she was a client until she moved overseas. So funny. And I said to her, well, maybe you just changed the energy in the session, so you didn't need to, be this new choice energy you'd already chosen. And she was like, well, not only that, he was just, he's changed. He's even more passionate to her and even more attentive to her, and they've just grown closer. And she just says, isn't it crazy how just a label and a conclusion, those judgments, they do kill. So that's it for today. Maybe today, think about your day. Are you concluding that it's going to be a crappy day or it's going to be a bad day? What if you let go of that? If it's raining where you are, you label it as, it's a drizzly day, it's going to be whatever. We'll take the label off. Magic can happen when you do. All right, have a beautiful rest of the week. Take care, and truly, what else is possible?